Listen, the 40 wall is legit. Like,
Is it?
Yeah, once you pass it, like, you're totally screwed up.
Listen, I'm about to hit 30. Don't scare me.
Might not like new music, but at least I knew who the
Right?
the artists were. But there's apparently a very famous person coming here, and they were trying to tell me who it was, and I was like, I don't know who that is.
Can I
can't-
know?
I can tell you off
Can
there.
you? I was gonna say, can you type it?
I can't say anything. I don't even know if you would know, to be honest with you.
What? Are you trying to tell me I'm not cool?
No, I think it might be a little bit.
I think I just heard that I wasn't cool.
I think it might be just not your area.
You'd be surprised. Try me.
Well, I sent it to you, so you can.
Okay. What the hell is that?
Yeah, see? Exactly.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I do and I just don't know it, but that sounds weird.
Yeah, the
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll explain it
Okay,
later,
all
but
right.
I didn't know. We're being very cryptic for the audience, but
That's okay.
I can't say anything over the air. So, but we are here to talk about the paranormal, actually, which is what we usually do on Saturday nights. We weren't here last night. Stephanie, you were out of town. I was out of town. Although I find out that wrestling event that I was at, the one that I said, oh, there's no way I would ever make it back in time.
You made it back in time.
It was at 6 o'clock instead of the 7 o'clock time.
Oh
but
my goodness.
we still didn't make it back in time. I still would have been
Well,
late.
you would have been
so.
by yourself too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Matt were around. But the wrestling show went pretty well. I didn't get beat up, but there are some issues.
There's always
there
a
are
silver
some
lining.
issues. And I won't be at the next show because we'll be in Mount Washington.
I am so excited for Mount
So-
Washington. I've been talking about it all afternoon.
Well, that's one of the things that I want to talk about, because I want to find out about some of these stories and things that we're going to investigate, because I know, Stephanie, you've been up there already.
I have, and I've investigated there.
And
John has too for years.
And I know the two, like the two of you and myself to some degree, we stay at a lot of different hotels and stuff too.
Right.
And I kind of want to talk a little bit about haunted hotels
Let's do it.
overall.
Why not?
So,
Sounds good to me.
but before we get into all that, let me just let everybody know the numbers if you want to call in at any point during the show. 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. And we're especially interested. We're going to talk about the Mount Washington Hotel first, because we're going to be there. We're going to be. Look at this. See, he's not. He's
doesn't
telling the truth. He
know.
does not know how to work that phone.
I don't.
Listen, I'm telling you, I need to find friends under 40.
Aren't you usually like the guy that has the Bluetooth in your ear all the time too?
No.
No, you're not a Bluetooth
Listen,
guy.
I have joked for like a year straight that I was going to buy him a Bluetooth headset for Christmas or his birthday, because I cannot stand when he goes, hold on. I'm going to put you on speakerphone and then read you a paragraph, because then I
Well-
can't hear anything.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to insult you here, John, but you've got a large head.
Yes.
And so I have the same problem. And when you have a large head, the ear and the mouth are further away than they are
This
for
is
most
true.
people. So to use a regular phone, like I have the S8 Plus, and everybody's making fun of me, like, why do you have to have the S8 Plus? Oh, because I need a little bit of extra length to get from my ear to my mouth.
Well, when I tried to
I could make
actually
so many
go out
comments.
and get a new phone last September, they didn't have the Note 8 out. So they convinced me to buy this one instead. And I was not happy at all, but I did. Now they won't turn around and give me the actual Note 8 until my contract's up with this one. So now I'm stuck with it.
That's terrible.
Yes, not too happy because
Well-
this thing's tiny.
Now they have the 9s coming out.
Yeah, that's what the guy told me. He says just wait until like August. The 9 will be out by then, and then you can get that.
Yeah, my thing, what I'm really interested in when it comes to phones is, like, phone calls are like 8th on the list of things that I care about, because I never talk on the phone.
You don't ever do. No, it's
So
it's
I
bad.
don't really need the phone part of it. But like the first thing is like, well, how much space does it have so I can put Echo Vox on it? So when I'm on investigations and somebody else has my
Yeah.
tablet, I can still pull that out. And then I want to know how many podcasts I can keep on it and all kinds of stuff like that. So those are the important things to me. So I threw out the numbers: 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. We also have the chat room. up and running on Spooky South Coast's Spooky TV at SpookySouthCoast.com and on YouTube. I did not get in to change the episode title on YouTube, so that is not what we will be discussing. That was the last show. But we will, if you want to call in and talk Bigfoot, we certainly can. But Cliff Barrickman is not with us. He's actually with Moniz right now.
Right, in Massachusetts, though.
And right now he's like, oh, man, why did I agree to do that show last week? Because, like, now this guy's following me around.
Stop it.
Where in
So
Mass are they?
bad.
Hadley.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we told Cliff to make sure that he gave Moniz grief.
Yeah.
So I said it can't be a Saturday night if somebody isn't picking on him somewhere. So I asked him if he could make sure that he did that.
Nice.
But we will take your calls throughout the show. And again, as I mentioned, I want to talk about haunted hotels because there are quite a few.
Right.
And some of them embrace it. Some of them don't. Some of them are willing to let people come in and investigate. Some people don't allow that, but they still don't shy away from the stories and the legends that are out there. We have one locally. We have two locally, actually. Here in Fairhaven, the Seaport Inn has stories.
I've investigated it, and I worked there.
And depending on whoever the current management and ownership is, sometimes they talk about it, sometimes they don't.
Right.
And
Ownership never changed, did it?
Whoever is speaking for them, we'll say.
Right. So
There's-
the owner hates everything to do with the fact that it's haunted. That is an actual fact. Trust me, I worked for him, I know.
But we can get some staff here and there to talk about it.
It depends on how long they've been there, too.
So that story, just real quick, that story is that there's a room where, correct me if I have this wrong, because it's been a long time since I wrote my book. There's a room where somebody killed themselves, and on the anniversary of that suicide, they can't let anybody stay in that room because they get phone calls from that room at the front desk throughout the course of the night.
No.
Okay.
Somebody did die in that room. To my knowledge, it was not a suicide.
All right.
And I believe it was a drug overdose.
Well,
It wasn't an intended suicide.
It's still somebody.
Suicide just has
It wasn't a murder. We'll put it that way.
They don't usually rent out that room, anyways.
Ever at all?
No, I mean the place, like in where it is in the hotel, like they still have like smoking rooms, unless they've redone them. But when I was working there, like
I hope not.
they even had like
2018.
a
Don't
certain
allow that.
floor where like fishermen
hey,
stayed
hey.
only.
You can go outside.
Hey, I'm telling a story here.
If it's cold, though.
All right,
Too bad.
carry on.
Go ahead.
I'd rather not have the place burned down.
They have like a certain floor that they rent to like just the fishermen on the boats, because when they come in, obviously smelling like seafood, different things like that. They have like the smoking rooms because a lot of the guys smoke. So like they have certain areas of the hotel. To my knowledge, this was one of the areas of the hotel that they don't rent to the regular public, just to like certain people. So when they it's not that they don't rent it out, but the phone does call the front desk. Like I was present when it was calling the front desk and nobody was staying there. So it's not that they don't rent it out during the anniversary. It's that bottom line, like it calls the front desk anyways.
So it's any time. It's not just on the anniversary. It's just
it did happen near the anniversary, but it didn't necessarily have to do with like it called it at random times too.
Okay, so it's not just
So,
that day. So there's a chance that it's right now because we're talking about it. The front
I don't know
desk
if they
is
ever
getting a
fixed it.
call.
I have no idea.
I mean, you could take the phone out of the room, but you still might get calls. It
Right.
doesn't just because you take the phone out doesn't mean that they're not still going
I
to try to call.
remember at the time the current manager's son was working maintenance, and he was terrified to go in there because he didn't know what he was gonna find, because the phone just kept ringing and he was terrified of the fact that there might be a ghost in there waiting for him. But it actually did. It called. But that's not even the haunted part of the hotel.
I was going to say, because I've been there a couple of times for events, and isn't the closed down part where they do like the SWAT practice and all that I heard, isn't that the more haunted side?
Yes, the old hotel.
Yeah.
But they allowed, I think it was state police, to come in and use it for practice for whatever they were doing.
Yep.
So it's torn to junk.
Yeah. But wasn't it like one of the last rooms at the very end on the second floor? It was like
Did
a
you go in
suite.
with me?
I don't know if it was it was during the Paracon.
Oh, then no. I did an actual investigation in there.
Okay, no.
I was the only person that was allowed to do it, because I worked there. And and a closet next to the last room was pretty active, but the entire way, like the entire second floor was totally active. That is where I was recording with Mike Markowitz, and I saw a little girl run by me, and I asked her, "What are you doing?" And she was answering me, and I obviously could hear her doing what I do, but Mike recorded the entire conversation back and forth.
Really?
So you can hear what I say, and you can hear her direct answer as I heard it. We also heard like audible voices like yelling out to us, which was really interesting. I mean, if you talk to the old staff who have been there since the older part was open, they would tell you like they found a woman dead like in her breakfast one morning, you know, like sitting in the old part of the hotel. So I mean, it's a hotel, people die in hotels. It does happen. So it is active, but there are so many different things that I experienced in that hotel that had nothing to do with anything, you know, to do with like recent deaths in those rooms. I used to close up the bar at night, and I actually used to call my friend Martin to come and sit with me on nights that I had to close, because they just let me close by myself and walk out. And I hated it because the light switch was inside the kitchen. But in order to, what I would have to do is go inside the kitchen, shut off the light, lock the kitchen door, stand in the dark, and then walk through and let myself out and lock the door. So I was terrified. And no amount of flashlight was helping that because of how haunted it was. I would be sitting by myself waiting for the next crowd to come in, because this is when they first reopened the bar, so it wasn't as popular. And I could hear like people flipping cards and poker chips. And it was loud. And I used to turn everything down just to see what I could hear.
That's crazy.
And I could hear that. And I could hear people laughing and talking. I'd be able to smell cigarette smoke. And there was one point where I was sitting on one side of the bar. I have a picture of it somewhere. And I have OCD. Anybody that knows me, everybody that's ever sat at a bar that I worked at knows that I have OCD. And they would make fun of me for it because I'd keep a really clean, neat bar, and I'd make sure all the bar stools were perfect, always. And when I sat on one side of the bar, I could hear the bar stools moving on the complete opposite side. But if you look at that bar, these bar stools, there's nowhere for them to go. It's either pressed up against the bar, or if you scoot out, the wall's right there. So I went and I took a picture one day because I couldn't believe it, because I'm like, what is that noise? And I went over there, and all the bar stools were screwed up as if people were moving in the chairs. So I used to just, you know, talk to them like, hey, what do you want to drink? You know, start a conversation, and it kicked up activity a lot. So that used to happen in the main bar. But when you walked through the kitchen to the back hallway, into the ballrooms, into the function rooms, all that, I used to hear high heels stomping throughout the kitchen. And it used to scare the hell out of me, because they were angry heels. Anybody that's ever heard a woman stomp away mad wearing heels.
Now, it's funny you say that, because when we did the Paracon there, he let us investigate the old part of the hotel. Now, you understand, like, when you're in those ballrooms, you go through the back of them, and you're in a back hallway.
Yeah.
And that would actually, if you took a right, you could end up at the door to go up to to that building. We were walking there. All of a sudden, somebody said, did you hear that? And there was only a group of 5 of us. And we all stopped, and you could hear what sounded like a heavier woman, like really upset and mad, like stomping her feet, walking to the actual like doorway or something.
Right. So I used to hear this woman stomp all the time, and it used to scare me. But it got to the point where anybody that knows me knows I've worn heels forever. It's just me. The guys that used to work in the kitchen, when we reopened the kitchen, used to come in and be like, did you just run past me? I just saw a woman with red hair and with heels on run past me. I'm like, nope, wasn't me.
I don't have red hair.
Well, without it being as dark as it is, yes, it's red.
Oh, okay.
So, don't tell my secrets. So, when they would hear it, they'd come blasting out to the bar and ask me why I was running in my heels in the kitchen. I was like, it's not me. So I had heard it. They had heard it. And I did some research. And I found someone that worked in a certain department for a certain agency to dig up some info on me for this particular area for me. And I found that there was a body that washed up on the shore. And you know, like the seaport's right there. Like it's the water's right there.
Like literally right there.
It washed up very close by on Pope's Island.
Hence the name.
Right. They still have not identified her. More like nobody wants to identify her. She's from a different country. So she more than likely came in on one of the fishing boats and
Mhm.
smuggled her in. They killed her. And she matches the exact description that everybody's seen there.
Oh wow.
And like it's down to like identifying like jewelry. They identified the country that she's come from, and nobody will claim her at all. So I think that she's really angry that
Nobody's
coming forward about who she is. And she's very like distinct looking, like you can tell what nationality she is. And I would see her run up and down, but she was always so angry that I never stopped her to be like, hey, can I help?
Mhm.
And I was scared because I was always in the dark and
Yeah,
I was always
you're
alone. And I mean, I can understand, you know, being angry and being stuck in the in-between and not having anybody to help you. But she was always so angry and so fast, I could never stop her. So doing the research, I found out who she was. I don't know if she still stomps around the halls there, but it's all in that back part, but right where they would have found her body.
A friend of mine, Rebecca, used to work there, and she used to tell me.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
She used to tell a lot of stories
Yeah.
that she would hear stuff in the kitchen area when everybody was gone, and
Oh, she always used to tell me, oh, I don't believe it.
and that's what she told me. Oh, I
Yeah.
don't believe it, but it's just weird. It's got to be something else. But it's funny. People talk about it, and then she would tell me, oh, I hear people talking about it, and then I would hear it the next night and just kind of push it
Yeah.
away. But I guess something finally did happen that she totally believed. I forgot what it was, if something fell over, but she's like, there's no way it could have. So
Yeah.
she just totally believes it.
Which is funny because you can hear things, but you
Yep.
ignore them.
Yep.
So,
You know that the Comfort Inn and Suite has a room like that in
Which
Fall
one?
River.
oh, does it?
Yes.
No, thank
Literally, as soon as you walk in, it's the first room right by the elevator. They've asked me to come in and check it out
Yeah.
just to see. And I've actually had a friend stay there. They usually don't rent it out, but it was busy, so they did give it to him, and he stayed there. And he said all night long he kept feeling like somebody was tapping him on his shoulder. He said he heard the bathroom door open and shut a couple of times. But supposedly somebody did hang themselves in there, and then there was in that same room a
Ugh.
drug overdose about 6-7 months later.
That's pretty common nowadays, especially with the opioid epidemic that we're having. But going a little further out, I was asked one night to go to the Ritz-Carlton in Boston because they had a room that they could not rent out. The regional manager stayed there, and she got so freaked out, she moved her room. So she said, we have to get somebody in here, but how do we do that without upsetting people that are paying a lot of money to be there?
Without the public
So
knowing.
they kind of snuck me in, which was really funny. The security team was, you know, busy running around with their headsets and, you know, talking about me and what I was doing and trying to keep people from
Away.
figuring out what was going on. I remember walking in the front door and Kirstie Alley was at the bar.
Really?
The New York Rangers team was there. Gronk was there with his family. You know, like celebrities everywhere. And I'm just like, hey, I'm the people talking to dead people, don't mind me, you know. And they were so freaked out that somebody was going to find out what was happening. And they're like, please, can we just, you know, comp you some drinks at the bar for doing this for us? I was like, no, it's fine. You know, I don't drink on the job. But I actually got to meet a lot of really cool people that night, that, you know, with history of Boston and everything else. But I walked up there and they were so concerned that it was a guy that when they were building the towers that people actually live in, connected to the hotel, somebody fell to their death right outside the window of this room. And they're like, oh my God, it's him. I'm like, nope, he's fine. He's crossed over. It was actually 2 little girls.
Really?
And they were playing with everything in the room and like making things fall off the walls and everything else. But I just said, I'm like, does anybody here know the history of the property? And there's a guy down at the bar that used to hang out there all the time, that he owned a restaurant nearby and he knew the history of the property. I said, there was a fire here on this property. I said, and when the building burned down, these little girls were obviously a casualty of the fire, and they're still hanging out. And turns out that the actual property had a different hotel there before it burned to the ground, and that's what was left. So they were still playing in the halls, and they were freaking people out nonstop. So I had to do my thing and make sure that they crossed over, but
Not get seen doing it either.
huh?
And not get seen
Right.
doing your job
Yeah,
either.
so it was very, very interesting. So I love the fact that people get really freaked out about staying in hotels and them being haunted, and I understand them being haunted, but I mean, I've stayed in my share of haunted hotels, and I have to say I'm not really a fan of staying in haunted hotels.
I mean, I'd make the assumption that probably
all of them
would have something.
but historic ones, absolutely.
Even if it's not a true, quote unquote haunting,
Yep.
because even if there's no death associated with it, and not that there needs to be death
Right.
for haunting, we can get into all that some other time. But I think just the energy of people coming through there all
Oh
the
my
time,
God, yes.
Yep.
and think about the kind of things that people do in a hotel. Not everybody's there just to sleep. You
Right.
know, there's people that are doing other things that expend a lot of energy, and well, there's a workout room, so they're exercising.
Sure.
Sure.
There's a pool, so they're swimming.
This is
Yep.
weird.
Yep.
There's
Um,
there's usually a restaurant or a bar, so people are having a good time. And then when they go back up into their room,
Yep.
not everybody is like me and wants to take a bath in the tub and
right.
fall asleep watching TV. So there's other things that are going on. So there's energy that's expelled in there, but sometimes it's not even because of the fact that it's a hotel there, but just about
Right.
the fact of where it's located. And a good case in point with that is the John Carver Inn in Plymouth, where
Mhm.
we'll be in September for the Plymouth Paracon. They have a haunted room. One room is supposedly, super haunted there. But there's other stories of things that happen throughout the entire hotel, and they think that part of that might be because of the fact that where that hotel has now been built, there used to be a house that housed medical students in the late 1700s, early 1800s. I forget exactly when, but there were medical students that were all staying there. It was like kind of like they all stayed together
Mhm.
because they were all studying together. And what did medical students do to practice back then is they would go and they would rob graves.
Mhm.
And they would dig
So
up
creepy.
and of course that hotel is right at the base of Burial Hill.
Right.
And so these guys were just going up the side of the hill at night. And you can go up on Burial Hill,
Mhm.
especially back then when there's no lights or street lights or anything. You could go up on Burial Hill and nobody would know that you were up there because you're so high up and you're away
Yep.
from everybody else that you can dig up a body and nobody would know that you're doing it. So they would dig up the bodies and they would bring them back down to their house where they lived, and they would, practice their medical procedures on
Mhm.
these bodies. So they feel like all of that grave robbing and unrest kind of might have caused some of that activity to stir up, and that's what the John Carver Inn is dealing with now, is just the residual energy from those grave desecrations happening. It could also just be too the fact that it is at the base of Burial Hill,
Right.
which is very active, and you're surrounded by water, and there's a river, and there's the
Mhm.
Jenny Grist Mill, and there's the Plymouth
Right.
waterfront. Everything's kind of the perfect storm there for there to be activity. So when people say, "Oh, I stayed there and weird stuff
Right.
happened," it doesn't surprise me at all. It's probably,
It's a combination of everything, really.
I'd be disappointed if somebody told me they stayed there and nothing happened,
Right.
because it just seems like it's the perfect factor for it. So in some of these places, it can be as simple as a Motel 6.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a fancy hotel. It doesn't have to be a place with a long history. The Hawthorne Hotel in Salem's very haunted, but
I've stayed there.
that also has a long history.
Yes.
So there's
Even
been
the hallways are creepy there.
Hmm.
everything's kind of creepy there.
They kind of remind me of The Shining.
I just don't like it. Like, I can tell you,
Well-
I personally wouldn't want to sleep there ever again.
I don't mind it. It's to me, it's just weird that everything's so small because it's an older
Everything is
hotel.
super tiny.
But
I can't fit in one
I was
of
gonna
those beds.
say we were laughing hysterically about that
Yeah.
the last time we went, because I remember looking at my bed. That's when you followed me and Alicia upstairs, and I looked at the bed and I looked at you. I was like, "You're sleeping here tonight? How?
And I'm like,
Are you
nope.
sleeping on the floor?"
I'm like, nope, I'm down the
I
street.
had really, really weird dreams while I slept at the Hawthorne Hotel all night long. Like, I did not sleep at all.
the last time that we stayed there, there was it was the Friday night after the party
Mm-hmm.
for Salem Con, after the VIP party, and everybody had kind of gone out to keep drinking. I think I even went out and had a few drinks, if I remember right. But finally, it was to the point where I was
Yeah.
just going to go and settle into my room. So I go and I settle into my room, and first I ran to Wendy's.
Yep.
Grabbed a late night Baconator, and
Where was
I'm
I?
probably in your room.
So you had cheeseburgers without me,
And
And there's a Wendy's near there?
right?
there is, yeah. It's you could walk to it, but I
Oh
drove.
yeah, I think
Ah.
you went to Wendy's because you parked right out front, right?
Right.
And I went to bed.
And so I just ran to Wendy's and I grabbed a burger and came back to my room, and as I'm laying in my bed, eating my greasy burger and watching whatever I was watching on television, the people in the room next to me were having an Elvis party or something, because they were just singing
That's
Elvis
awful.
songs all night long, and I was
Mhm.
like, I'm pretty sure that Dustin Perry's not here tonight.
Right.
So who else is having an Elvis party? You know, I was like gonna just bang on the door like, Dustin, Cody, shut up, but it
Right.
wasn't them. And so I mean, and I love Elvis. Don't get me wrong, but at
But not all night.
2:30 in the morning,
No.
it's time for Elvis to leave the building. So I was like kind of concerned, and it never stopped. And so I was wondering, I was like, is there actually people singing Elvis?
Or is it something
Or
else?
is it just something, because like, how is nobody else complaining about this yet? How has nobody else on this floor called down to the front desk and said, hey, it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Can you tell these guys to quiet down? So I don't know. I mean, it
Well,
didn't
that's-
sound like Elvis, so it
That's
wasn't
not
the ghost
what I
of Elvis.
could hear all night, but I can't share what I could hear all night because
Well,
it's inappropriate.
There's a lot
but-
lot of squeaky bed springs happening at
Yeah.
paranormal conventions.
I,
'Cause for some people, it's the only time that they can get any. So
Alicia and I were laying in bed laughing hysterically all night until we passed out, and then I had the nightmares.
separate
so-
beds.
No.
No.
No,
No.
For the sake of this story, over the radio, separate beds.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep it. I'm trying to keep it clean here.
Okay.
I didn't know Alicia was dirty.
Yeah.
No. This is a family show. No, you can't have separate beds in the Hawthorne.
No,
there's no room for it.
No.
I don't understand how
do
they do.
even do they even have double?
There are
They
bigger
must.
rooms. There
Oh,
are
there
bigger
are.
rooms. Yeah. There's some rooms too that are like little mini suites.
Okay.
So, because other people, especially the first Salem Con, I went to some other people's rooms to go up and have drinks and stuff, and other people had like bigger rooms and little mini suites and stuff, but not where we were. So we do have a call on the line. Good evening. You are on Spooky South Coast. Oh, hold on. Let me put you through.
Good
there.
evening. Good
All right,
evening,
now you're on
Tim and
Spooky South
company.
Coast.
How are you?
Hello. How are you?
I'm enjoying your show. First
Hello?
time caller.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Somebody turned off a button they weren't supposed to turn off.
I'm a first time caller to your show, but
Well,
I've
thank you.
enjoyed it listening to it for years.
Thank you very much.
But my question, Tim and company, was: has anyone made efforts into investigating the Lakeville Hospital
Yes.
for paranormal
I've-
activity? Yes,
I've been trying for years to get in there. And
that would be an awesome place because I remember my nursing rotation, 1979. It was a chronic care hospital for children who required too much nursing care to be at home.
Mhm.
And they each had a story. And I remember I was assigned to a 3-year-old that at 2.5 had walked out the backyard and into the family pool. She was there about, they estimated, about 23 minutes.
oh wow.
Her father found her and tried to resuscitate her, but she remained comatose. And each one of those children had a story behind them. And I was just thinking, when the paranormal, when you talk about someone trapped, that they can't get over to the other side, I was thinking that's like people in a coma. They're trapped inside.
Right. So was that in the newer building, the one that's in the front, the one that you see right off 105?
Yes,
And then was it the third floor? Because I heard the third floor was where the children were.
yes.
So from what I hear, that whole entire floor had a history of activity.
I wouldn't be surprised.
See,
I mean, beautiful children, many of them, some of them born with medical conditions, severe. Some of them just almost unrecognizable as infants. And the parents just could not deal with some of them even looking at them, much less caring for them. I'll never forget my rotation there. I'll never forget it because each one had such trauma and turmoil in their lives. And I was thinking about it when you were talking about the various places that you people have gone to. So I was curious about Lakeville. For some reason, Lakeville Hospital came into my mind today.
Let me ask
tonight.
you this: when you were there, was the back end of the property where they had the old tuberculosis buildings, was that still in use back then, or was those already
Yeah.
abandoned?
Yes, they had two iron lungs, and there was a young man that was kept on there for, I think, at least 11 years.
Wow.
I actually have. I was very lucky. I had been trying to get in there a couple of times, and obviously not, them not allowing it. But I was actually lucky. I went there one day, and it was on some holiday. I forgot what it was. The security guard happened to be a fan of the shows, and when I told him what I was doing, he's like, "Well, nobody's going to be around. Come take my rounds with me." So he let me hang around there for about 3 hours, and I got to go through the place with equipment and all that, and I got some great pictures. Still, the iron
Really?
lungs. The iron lungs are still there. There's about 6 of them, or at least this was going about 4 years ago. There's about 6 sets of iron lungs still there. There was now, do you remember there being outside of a nursing station on the 3rd floor, an actual crib with rails around it and everything for like the nurse? It was like built into the wall. Do you remember that
Yes.
being there?
Yes, because sometimes, well, not sometimes, they had 2 hydrocephalic children there that grew much older than they ever thought would. His head was approximately the size of a baby's crib, just his head.
Okay.
And they had to make and customize his crib and all of his equipment.
Really? Now, see, I've heard that story before, and I heard that, and again, this is just story. I don't know how true it is. I heard that child that had the, oversized head, and they had to customize everything for him. I heard that he actually passed away there, and that he actually put his head through the actual crib area, and that's how he ended up passing away, because one of the boards clipped his neck and cut him. Do you know if that's true at all?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
He had so many complications. I would see him. Well, first of all, he lived many, many more years than what they had ever anticipated. He had a vocabulary about 150 words.
Okay.
And many of those words came from what he heard from staff and people.
Kind of just copied what he heard.
Right. He was adorable, but no, I don't see that, because his head was in excess of 56 pounds. And we needed 4 nurses to turn his head from side to side every 2 hours, so he never got pressure sores. But he did, but he could not move without assistance.
I can tell you that, a few years ago when the show Ghost Stalkers was in production, I was tasked with trying to find locations for these guys to go and investigate. And being the fact that they had both had near-death or actually after-death experiences, I was trying to find a good hospital for them to go and investigate. And I was working in Lakeville at the time, and I was driving by the hospital every day, and I knew that it was kind of one of those places where everybody wanted to get in. And Derek Bartlett, who runs the Cape and Islands Paranormal Research Society, I know he had gotten in there because his mom had worked there. And he had told me stories about some of the activity that was going on in there, so I thought this would be perfect. And at the time, it was owned by a property management company down in Florida. And it was because they've been trying to get it sold for years to turn it into various different things. They were looking at making it a supermarket. At one point, there was a food service, a food distribution company that was going to go in there. All these different things that they've been trying to do over the years. And I had heard stories that, if you just went up to the guard and gave him a $20 bill and some Dunkin' Donuts, he would let you in. And it never worked for me. And I knew that that's not how you go in there and do a television show. So I said, all right, I got to call the management company. So I called the number on the for sale sign, and they kept me on hold for 45 minutes waiting to talk to somebody. And when they finally put somebody on, I got about 2 sentences into what I was trying to pitch them, and the voice on the other side just said no, and hung up the phone on me. And then when I started working on Ghost Asylum, same thing. I figured, that's a perfect place for them to come and to get them up into the Northeast for a change.
Right.
And the same thing happened when I called. I had to wait and wait and wait and wait. And when I got the person on the other end said, no, and these TV shows should stop calling because we're not going to let anybody in, because they're just afraid of if they let somebody in and it gets popular, then everybody's going to try and sneak in, and then all of a sudden they need to have more than just one guy sitting in a guard desk every night, which, from what I understand, that's all they have.
Yeah, that's all they have. It's one guy at a little trailer that's parked out
Wow.
front, and that's all it is.
That is a big building.
A lot of the fencing around the back end has all been taken down, and people have been sneaking in there over the years. Not that we condone that, not that we want to suggest that anybody does that, but especially back there, because it's all falling apart, the old tuberculosis area, and it's just dangerous to be in there. So, well, it's great to actually talk to somebody that had been on the inside there and can offer some insight.
Yeah, it was a great hospital, Tim. They did a lot of miracles there, and they took great care of people. Not like care today, but real care back then. And that's how those children lived for so very long. And that child with the hydrocephalic young man, his name was Brucey. Bruce. Yeah. So, very nice talking to you. I'll continue
Likewise.
to listen.
All right. Thank you for calling in. Don't be a stranger.
No, I won't. Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Have a good night. And we have another call on the line, 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. Those are the numbers to call in. Good evening. You're next on Spooky South Coast.
Hello?
Hello. You're on the air.
All right. You're talking about a kid who had a big head, right?
Yeah, hydrocephalic young man.
Well, because when I was a kid, I knew somebody who was like that. And I went to put his head down, and they told me to be very careful.
Mm-hmm.
I could, I can give you a little bit more about my life, so you know what I'm talking about, because I was with that kid, and we were in the same place.
Okay.
Matter of fact, it was in Taunton.
In the hospital there?
Yeah, there's an institution out there.
Right.
That we were in, and he was in the building I was in. See, and he was it was a long time ago, and like that. And is this that same kid?
I don't know if it's the same one. How long were you in Taunton State for?
Well, I was practically raised there, if you will. And when I got a little older, they shipped me to the buildings where the young adults were and stuff like that, and that's how I came to meet this kid,
And we've heard for years stories about there being paranormal phenomena that takes place there. Did anything strange or unusual happen while you were there that you can remember?
Well, I was busy being a kid,
Right.
And maybe about 12 years old or so when I was there and stuff. But I was there a lot longer than that. I was there from the time I was 6 till I was about 16, I think it was. And I left that place, and I was born here in New Bedford, but I was raised over there,
Right.
And
Well,
like that.
I know that's another place that's on the list of researchers such as ourselves, people who investigate the paranormal. That's one of those bucket list places around here. People want to get in there and try and see what's there because so many stories have come out. Especially, did you ever spend any time in any of the basement tunnels?
Well, when it rained over there, we would go through the tunnels to a cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
There's many tunnels there that led you to the cafeteria there and stuff, and that place would make a nice fallout shelter, if you will.
Are you talking about Paul?
Those tunnels go for miles.
Are you talking about Paul Devers or Taunton State?
Paul Devers.
Oh, okay. Yep, that
Exactly.
makes sense.
Yeah, so that's not even around anymore. That's all been torn down and turned into an industrial park.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, they tore it all down a few years ago because again, when I was working on the TV shows, I reached out to them to see if we could get in there, and they were actually saying, like, in 2 weeks, there's not even going to be any buildings left anymore. They were leveling them all to build an industrial park.
I didn't know that. I tell you what, boy. I made at least 3 trips to that place in the 80s by bicycle. I just felt like, going out there for a while and,
Mm-hmm.
took down memory lane and stuff like that. Because I had a lot of kids I grew up with over there. And people used to live in that place.
Oh yeah.
There were houses there, and people lived and owned their homes in that place and everything. And God only knows if they still do.
No, I think it's all gone now. Really, it's.
But there were strawberry patches we worked on in there and stuff. Oh yeah.
Yeah, those days unfortunately are no more now. When they build facilities like that now, it's very very cold and very for lack of a better word, institutional.
So that whole place is turned down.
Yeah, now it's all one big industrial park, and it's last I heard they were still trying to fill it. They still didn't have enough businesses to fill it all up. So,
my goodness. All right, now getting back to that kid, how old was he when he passed?
We don't know.
yeah,
We don't know.
It's I don't know if it would even be the. She said this was. She said she worked in what 79.
Yeah.
So just to give you a time frame, that's when it would have been.
Oh, because I was about 12 when I met the guy, and I thought maybe that was him.
I mean, unfortunately,
If he was still around today, he would probably be right around my age or so.
yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't a very uncommon thing back then. It was kind of an issue that happened more often than it should have.
All right.
Well, thank you very much for the call.
Yeah, God bless you guys. Have a good one.
You as well.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to call in during the show, 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. We only have a few minutes left in this hour, but we'll pick up the conversation coming up after the news with some more discussion. We'll talk more about some haunted hotels, including one that you can actually come and join us at in just a couple of weeks. And it's, listen, like I said earlier, even a Motel 6 can be haunted. This is like the complete total opposite of a Motel 6.
This is like a jackpot.
Yeah, this is not like going and sleeping in a room that you get for $40 a night on Priceline.
Right.
All right, so you're gonna get into this place for way less money than it would normally cost you to even look in the window
Right.
of this place. So we'll let you know about all that coming up as well. We also have a couple of our other events as well. We just announced a new one. The Smith Harris House in Niantic, Connecticut, which is actually a village of East Lyme, Connecticut. And this is a place that Jeff Belanger and I went to years ago for a Legend Trips event. And people have been asking for years, when are you going to go back? When are you going to go back? And it turns out so had the Smith Harris House. They've been asking us when we were going to be able to go back. So we booked it for June 15th. And you can find out more information on Spooky South Coast's website, SpookySouthCoast.com. And if you go to the events section there, we have that, as well as some other great events that are coming up, including on April 21st, next month. This month by the time this show is over. On April 21st, we are having a special paranormal auction to help benefit Max, the cat at the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast, who recently acquired some very expensive medical bills and needs some help taking care of those. So we are going to have a paranormal auction with some items donated by all of our friends, people that you see on the TV shows, and people who have been working in the field for years have all donated merchandise and equipment and all kinds of stuff. And we're going to be auctioning all that off live on Spooky South Coast's YouTube channel. And then after that, there'll be a ghost hunt of the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast that we will have a very exclusive, very small group. And you never know what paranormal celebrities might be coming by and hanging out that night. So you can get tickets to that as well at SpookySouthCoast.com, as well as all of our other great events. But when we come back, we'll tell you how you can join us at a haunted hotel coming up. It's not that far from here. It's not that far of a drive either.
Nope.
So
It's a beautiful drive, actually.
you will want to take part in this. I promise you that. Again, we'll tell you more coming up in just a bit. We're going to be talking more about that hotel and other haunted hotels. We'll talk about the Roosevelt Hotel out in L.A. We'll talk about some of the other ones here in New England. We'll talk about the Stanley Hotel. We'll talk about all of them coming up with more Spooky South Coast. 508-996-0500 or jump in the chat room on Spooky TV at SpookySouthCoast.com. Back in just a few minutes.
New Bedford's News Talk Station. New Bedford's News Talk Station. 1420 WBSM. New Bedford streaming worldwide on the WBSM app and on WBSM.com.
Let's go inside the mind of a 10-year-old.
I should have worn those earrings today. I like those earrings. Gabby has those awesome earrings. I need to ask her where she got those, but that's just what she would want me to do. I'll have Michaela ask her for me.
Buckle up, Sarah.
Yeah, but then Michaela will be like, why don't you just ask her yourself? That's just like Michaela.
Sarah, buckle up.
Michaela's such a great name. I wish I was called Michaela. There's like a dozen Sarahs in my class.
Hey, we're not hitting the road until you buckle up, honey.
Oh yeah, seatbelt. I forget sometimes because my brain is like busy, you know? I wonder if there's pizza at school today.
Sometimes it can be tough to get through to your kids, but it's not impossible. Always make sure they're wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Remember, you have the keys, you have the power. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
The world can be dark and chaotic, but our relationship with God can sustain us every day. The People's Christian Church of New Bedford presents the Happy Bible Hour, entering our 90th year of continuous radio broadcasting to help you with your growing relationship with God. Join us each Sunday morning at 7:05 on WBSM. Tune in for a message of truth and hope from His Word here on 1420 WBSM.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin is here, Matt Costa.
Thank God. I didn't do my job that well today.
You did all right. You did okay.
No, you didn't.
The problem is I didn't put you in the best position to succeed. So
Thanks, boss.
If I had set everything up right to begin with, it wouldn't have been
It's not
a
really
problem.
surprising. He's done it to me too, so don't feel bad.
But it's as I was saying at the beginning of the show, I can't wrap my brain around all the things that Matt does over there. No, like I run that during the week for some of the other WBSM shows that we do, but that's all set up very simply.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like almost like Matt was like, I have to set this up only to what I think Tim can handle. And but then when I look at the spooky stuff, everything's like super fancy because he's the one that's usually running it over there, and he does a fantastic job and does all kinds of special effects and, you know, brings in the chat room into it and all that kind of. I'm like, no, I'm lucky I can get 4
Listen,
cameras in there.
We just can't survive without Matt. Let's just take a moment
I
to
agree
say
100%
that.
with that.
Bottom line.
But he's here bailing us out, even though he's probably sick of radio at this point today because he's been doing it nonstop. But
I forgot which radio, which mic.
I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna say you forgot which station you were at.
Yep.
Like, which one is this?
I did listen on the way in.
You did?
On like regular terrestrial radio, and I was like, this is the first time in a long time.
That's true. Yeah. I'll never forget the first time I heard the show on the radio without me being on it. It was when you guys were. I had to cover a Celtics game, and I think Chris Balzano helped host the show remotely from Florida, and you guys talked to Isaac Marion because he had written that book about zombies. He had written a fictional book about zombies, and Chris was like, we should book this guy. It'll be an interesting topic. And you really can't talk to somebody about zombies without it being something somewhat fictional, so let's just have this guy on. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. It doesn't sound like he's going to be anybody. Like, he's just a guy who wrote a book.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you guys can do it. And as I'm driving home, I finally pick up WBSM on my way home. I'm like, oh, this is actually a very interesting show. And who does it turn out to be? Isaac Marion, the guy who wrote the book Warm Bodies that went on to become the movie. And
And you thought he was nobody.
Yeah, and now he's like a big deal. And now he's too big for Spooky South Coast. I shouldn't say that. When the movie came out, he came back and joined us again. So,
Nice.
but yeah, so that's what happens when I don't. And then there was another show I didn't do. And who do they have as the guest? Mick Foley.
Really?
So see what happens when I'm not around.
Did you happen to see my pictures from a couple of weeks ago with him?
I did. Yeah, he's a great guy.
He is. Oh, sweetheart. Awesome guy.
He'll do anything too for anybody. So I find that there's a lot of people that are like that, especially in wrestling.
Yeah, no, it's true. It is true. He was awesome the whole weekend. Well, I shouldn't say the whole weekend. I only got to work with him on Sunday, but he was great though. I mean, he was walking around making sure he talked to other celebrities and people that were there. And
yeah, he's a big geek for stuff like that too.
Oh,
so.
he was buying all sorts of stuff to bring home. I guess he has an autistic son. Maybe it's not autistic. Maybe it's MS or something. But he is something.
Yeah, I don't know that much about his younger son.
And the son was super excited. He saw that Dad was going to be at the show with Texas Chainsaw Massacre guys were going to be at. So he had to watch the movie that night on Saturday night before he was going to the event on Sunday, and then asked him to sign the DVD. So he walked around getting all the guys and people, the females and characters from there, signing his son's DVD.
That's pretty awesome. We did have a callback during the news. The person who had called toward the end of the episode had called in, and he wanted to know about the cemetery that had been around Building 1 at the Devers School. And you said, John, that I told the caller, I said, I'll try to see what I can find out, and I'll mention it next week. But you said you actually knew something about it.
Yeah, so when Paul Dever, it's funny because I was one of the groups that was actually allowed in there legally, because I had a state trooper on my group that he patrolled that area, knew the guards. The guards actually gave us permission to go in as long as he was with us. And over time, I found out where the cemetery was. There was only one headstone, but yet there was about 20 people buried there. Out of the blue, after I find out that it's being torn down, my grandfather calls me one day and says, hey, my family owns a lumber company that I think you guys know that, in Land Clearing Company. He says, you'll never guess where we're at. We're at your old stomping grounds. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, we got the contract to clear Paul Dever, all the trees gone. I said, oh, okay. Go up there, check it out. It's weird not seeing buildings. All of a sudden, here comes them and G. Lopes, and they're digging the dirt to fill in the tunnels. They overturn a tree, and as they're using the backhoe to pull the stump out, here comes 3 coffins flipping up in the air.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't know. Nobody told them where the cemetery was. So they ended up having to shut down construction and actually go in and remove all of them. And I don't know where they actually brought them to.
So what you're saying is they moved the headstone, but they left the bodies, didn't you?
Yep, they did.
Matt knew exactly where I was going with that. He started smiling before I even started saying it.
Yep.
That's one of my. You know what that's from?
Yes.
Stephanie does not know.
Really?
You know what that's from?
Yeah.
What's that from?
Poltergeist.
You don't watch horror movies.
But I saw Poltergeist.
No.
Listen, I don't watch horror movies anymore because I had a bad experience with them. I just don't like them. I've tried it. I don't like it. The end.
Well, that's probably my favorite movie of all time.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I love that movie. I will watch it again and again and again.
More than Frighteners?
Yeah, no, I like Poltergeist more than Frighteners. I like Frighteners a lot, though. Frighteners is a very, very underappreciated movie. And it's scary enough, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a horror movie. I'd call it more of a scary comedy, dramedy.
That's true.
But you should see that movie. Have you seen The Frighteners?
The original, yeah. I haven't seen it if it's been redone or anything.
No, the one with Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
I was gonna say because it's Jake Busey. So if you haven't seen it, you should see it.
No, I've seen it.
So that's a great movie. I love it. So there you go for the caller. That's we were able to find. We didn't even have to do that much research. We just had to ask the big guy in the room. 50.
I try to help out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason why we had you come in tonight. That and also because you're going to let us know about this other event that's coming up. But let me just throw out the numbers. If anybody wants to join in the conversation, 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. I'm just taking a look at some of the comments there in the chat room. But John, we were saying that talking about haunted hotels. We were teasing it a little bit in the last hour, but there's some hotels that, listen, I know I'm not going to be able to go stay in. for the most part. Like there's some places where I was like, okay, even if I could afford it for the night, like I don't think that I deserve to stay in that type of hotel. I'll find myself a motel room somewhere.
So are you sleeping outside at Mount Washington?
No, because if you guys are going to be there, then I'm definitely on the same level.
Oh,
so.
okay. All right.
So we'll just all declass the place a little bit together. But we have the chance to actually go and stay and investigate and hang out and have a grand old time in Mount Washington, which I haven't been to since I was like maybe 10 years old. And I've never been in the hotel.
It's amazing.
Oh yeah, it's
I've seen
absolutely
it,
gorgeous.
but I've never been inside of it.
For anybody that's listening right now, if you don't know what the Mount Washington Hotel is, please go and Google Mount Washington Hotel, New Hampshire, just to see what it looks like. It is beautiful.
I mean, the whole place, from being inside, and it's updated, but it still tries to keep its original richness from back in the day, but it's still obviously updated to current times. But it's just so beautiful, and then the view off the back deck, or even if you're downstairs, just out walking around the property, seeing the mountain in the background.
It's just beautiful.
The whole thing's gorgeous.
And one of the things about it is that it's haunted. And I didn't know that as a kid, or else I definitely would have pushed to get to actually go inside when we went up there. But there's, as I was saying before, there's a lot of residual energy at hotels. There's a lot of, just something that gets left behind when people stay there, or maybe when people die there, and these little bits and pieces where we don't always know the full story. But there's a full story with the Mount Washington story. I know, Stephanie, you've been there.
Right.
Can you kind of share for people what it is that is like the main story attached to the Mount Washington Hotel?
So the main story that everybody knows that was made famous by ghost hunters is the spirit of Princess Carolyn, who was the owner of the hotel. And it said that the princess room, which is her favorite room that still has her bed in it, which, John, you didn't even know that, and you've been to the hotel multiple times.
I had no idea.
Her husband built the hotel, and he only lived in it for about 5 years and got to enjoy it for 5 years before he died. And between the time it was finished and when his death happened. And it's, well, from what I've been told, she was very young. She was much younger than he was. I think she was about 23 and he was 52 or something like that. And when he passed, in order to keep up with expenses and everything else, she married a French prince. So she wasn't a princess before. She became one. She became one after. So every single time they shut down the hotel for the season, she would have her bed shipped to France. And when it was time to reopen the hotel every single year, she would ship it back. So that bed still sits in this room. And the EVPs that have come out of that room are phenomenal, like nothing I've ever heard before. The one that Jay and Grant had caught, well, multiple, were amazing. But I was at an event there last year, and people coming right out of the hotel room that have never investigated before had amazing EVPs on recorders that they had just purchased because they were brand new at this. So it's amazing. She was said to stand and look over a balcony at the dining room, and she would be the last one to walk in. Always. After she walked in, no one was permitted to walk through the door for dinner. She was the last one to walk in, but she always hung over the balcony to make sure that she was the best dressed. If there was someone that was better dressed than she was, she went and she changed to make sure that she always looked the best. So it's a very ritzy hotel back in its day, and they've kept it the exact same way. It's a luxury hotel. It's amazing. When you walk in there, it feels like you're walking back in time.
Oh, yeah.
But it's beautiful. Just the view off the back is just
that little sitting area that's kind of part of
the
the
conservatory.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Another thing that happened there, and we all know Adam Berry, and it was one of the events that he was there, and this is going back probably about 5-6 years ago. Me and Adam were up in the North Tower, and there's probably a group of like 12.
That's maybe, actually closed down now.
Yeah, so you can't go up there. It's a shame because it's very active. But we were up in the North Tower, maybe a group of 10 or 12 of us up there. And Adam's walking around. I'm standing by the stairs to make sure nobody comes up and down and bothers the group. Adam's walking around working with people. He comes over to me and he says, "Hey, where did that girl go?" I said, "What girl?" He says, "The girl that just came this way." I said, "Nobody came this way." He's like, "You didn't see a girl wearing like a rain jacket with some boots on, some red boots?" And I said, "No." And he's like, "You sure?" And I said, "Yes, I'm sure." I said, "Why? What happened?" "We were all in one of the rooms up here in the tower, because the tower has multiple rooms around it. That's where the servants, when she lived there, the princess, that's where they stayed. And for a while after that, hotel staff actually lived up there. Well, they were in one of the rooms, and this woman came out of nowhere, dressed funny, and says, keep going, you're doing great," and then just walked away. We spent, literally, Adam sent me on a witch hunt for the rest of the night trying to find this woman because we thought she was that real.
He actually had a whole conversation with her.
Yeah. Yeah,
for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But she's been seen by multiple people throughout the hotel. But she is a little bit more modern.
So while the princess is the most famous ghost,
Yeah,
there's
been
many
others.
Oh,
yes. Ty and myself encountered something in the Breton Arms Inn, which is a separate hotel on the same property, that we can't even describe. I told him that night I didn't want to do the Frank's box, and he flipped it on, and as soon as he flipped it on, I saw something fly into the room that actually sent my senses through the roof. And I was like, oh my God, do I get up and run or do I stay? And I don't usually feel like that. Like you guys know, I'll walk into anything and I don't even care. But I stayed because I had a group of people that have never done this before. And Ty saw it, Ty encountered it, and we still don't know what it was, but we actually had people walk in the second group that had no idea what had occurred and were just immediately like crying hysterically and feeling like all these different emotions and telling us where the energy was and everything. It was wild. I have never been to the graveyard and I've never been to the stable, so I'm really looking forward to checking out everything this time.
I've been to both. The graveyard's very cool. A lot of history there. There's a lot of older graves from the 1800s that are actually there. The stable, obviously, it's a newer area. It's been rebuilt. You know, it was very hard the last two times that we investigated there, only because it was nighttime. They had to keep the horses in. It was cold. Yep. They couldn't let them outside. They were late fall, early winter events, like right after Thanksgiving.
Right.
So they couldn't let them stay outside during the night. So the horses were in there. Of course, they were making a little bit of noise. They were kicking, stuff like that. So it was hard to do an EVP session. But Tinny was there. And he was just entertaining the whole group. It was awesome. I mean, you guys know Tinny. When he goes on some of his stories, it's
He's
just
fascinating.
you just want to listen and suck up everything he has to say. So I don't care. I don't think nobody had a problem not investigating the stable because it was Tinny just telling his stories.
So it certainly sounds like when people come up and take part in this event, there's plenty to look for and plenty to investigate. What are some of the areas where people will be investigating during this event? So
everybody will have access at some point throughout the night at 5 different locations. They'll be able to go to the princess room. They'll be able to do the grand ballroom downstairs. They'll have access to the cemetery, to the stables, and then the Breton Arms Inn. And we'll rotate about every hour so people get to visit each location. And then obviously there'll be different celebrities from all the shows, including you and Stephanie, that'll be there in different locations working with other people. So you'll get to spend time with Jason, with Steve and Tango, with Sherry from Ghost Hunters, then Porter from Ghost Asylum and Haunted Towns, Stephanie from Ty, you.
So let's kind of just give her to the breakdown. So Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters, Steve Gonzalez from Ghost Hunters, Dave Tango from Ghost Hunters, Sherry DiBenedetti from Ghost Hunters, Porter from Haunted Towns and Ghost Asylum, Ty Gowan from Haunt Me, us two, and
us two,
and am I forgetting anybody?
No,
I think I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, and you'll be there.
Oh yeah, well I'll be just walking around making sure people are enjoying themselves because it's a whole weekend. It's not just come up and ghost hunt. You got Friday night dinner, VIP party and hang out with registration. You get to mingle with everybody. I'm sure we'll be heading over to the Cave Bar at some point to have drinks with people too. Saturday throughout the day, there'll be lectures. During the day, Q&A, meet and greets, that type of thing throughout the day. We'll break for dinner at some point and then come back and do the investigation Saturday night and then end on Sunday with more lectures and meet and greets and stuff. So it's a full week. It's a full lineup of a weekend.
And if people want to get tickets, how can they do so?
They can go to Bright Star Promotions at eventbrite.com. So
I'm like, no, don't do it. No, don't do it. Don't say it wrong.
You can go right there. You can click on it. We're actually running a special right now, thanks to a sponsor. Tickets were $295. They're down to $220 right now.
There's a limited amount left.
Limited amount, so you definitely want to get on that soon. And as far as I know, the hotel is still holding the rooms available at the room block rate. When you do go to purchase tickets, there's an actual link with a code that you can actually click on, and you'll get the code right there, and it'll tell you what to say to the hotel and book the room.
So just an idea for the people, how much is the room with the rate?
Normally the rooms are like $350.
Right.
We ended up getting it for $225 plus tax.
That's really good.
Yeah, the hotel has been very, very nice to us. We cannot thank them enough.
That's like the same price you would pay to go stay in like a Hampton Inn in the area up there.
Right.
Instead you're getting to stay in
a luxury hotel.
Yep.
And be right on site where all the cool stuff is happening.
Absolutely.
And your room might be haunted.
Well, I would think probably a good chance.
Mine was.
So
yours might be this time.
Stop it.
And you might be going to the princess
room. And for that price, for the price of admission to the event, you're getting access to the VIP party.
Yep.
You're getting access to the lectures during the day on Saturday.
Yes.
You're getting access to the investigation, and you're getting access to the lectures and everything on Sunday too. So that's
correct.
I mean, if you break it down by the day, you're getting a lot of value
like
for
$75 a day.
For,
something like that.
And it's not going to be like an overwhelmingly large group, too, where you're going to deal with 500, 1,000 people. Like, you're going to have the chance to really interact with people.
Right now, I'm estimating each group, so there'll be 5 groups. I'm estimating somewhere between 8 and 10 people per group.
That's not bad at all.
No. So you'll be able to have that quality time with whoever group you're in. And it's not going to be 7 people over here talking too loud while you and your friend are trying to do an EVP session. It'll be able to be controlled.
Yeah, but we're also we're talking about, like, even if it was 25 people in a group, we're talking about having plenty of space.
Yes.
The only time it would be tight maybe is in the princess room.
That would be the only
even that's a very decent sized room.
It is a big room.
But still, you're not going to be on top of each other in any way.
Nope.
In this site, and you're up there for the weekend, so maybe you say, okay, I'm going to go watch go listen to the Saturday lectures, but I think maybe on Sunday I'm going to go do something else, or you have that option since you're up there anyway.
Go climb Mount Washington if you want,
or drive it,
Nope.
Hey, Dustin did it a couple of years ago. Him and
Jeff Landry.
Yeah, ran it.
Yeah, when they were training for Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yep. You can do the Cog Railway too.
Was it? It was Kilimanjaro that they did, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can do the Cog Railway. I remember trying to talk you into doing the Cog Railway.
No.
We're going to do it this time.
I was totally like, oh yeah, I'm going to do the Cog Railway. And then Tim was like, you know what a Cog Railway is, right? And he started like getting into my head little by little by little, and was like, you're going to be terrified. So guess what I didn't do?
Yeah, well, you will this time.
Now, I'm a train geek, so I would love to do the Cog Railway, but I know that once I get on it, I'd be like, I can't
really?
do this. I'm not a heights guy.
I think because I'm inside something, I would be fine. But I'm not a heights person either.
I really wanted to say, like, I went to the top of Mount Washington.
Well, I mean, if you drive it, it's not like
it's bad coming back down, though.
Yeah.
On your brakes.
Yep.
Well, not everybody drives like you either, John. But, I mean, if you drive it, at least it's not as terrifying as if you were, trying to scale the side of it.
Nope.
But they still have the shuttle, right? They still have a bus that brings people up there?
I think they do.
Yeah, and they know how to drive it. So if you actually want to go up onto the top,
I think we all get in and take the Cog Rail up.
No.
If you could sit on like a shuttle bus.
We don't have time for the Cog Railway, so it's fine.
And just look at your phone the whole time and not
That's
have
what
to
I
look out the
figured I was going to do. I was going to
window.
bring a book, but I'm wicked claustrophobic too, so it just totally freaked me out.
Well, and again, people that want to go should grab those tickets right away because they're probably, by the time, and the event is coming up in, 2 weeks now, right?
About 2 weeks, April 14th, 13th,
No,
and 14th. 13th and 14th.
And 15th.
13th
and 15th,
to the 15th.
yes.
That's
listen to the guy that puts on the event, right?
So, well, also, that's also our ride up. So let's hope that he knows the date.
Who says?
Who's what?
Who says you're my ride up?
Well, he's my ride up.
already
'Cause I'm
talked
not
He's your
about
ride
that.
up. No, I told
I'm
you I'm
not
driving
driving.
myself.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I told you.
No, we didn't.
Yes,
'Cause
I
I'm
did.
picking up Mama Cheryl. Me and Mama Cheryl talked about this the other day.
Did you?
Yeah.
This is all something
News
we
to
can,
me.
we can settle off there. I do have to ask you though, what you're not leaving super early during the day, right?
Well, we have to pick her up.
Yeah,
early.
we have to pick her up.
She gets
so
in at like 8:30.
in the morning.
Oh, because I have to be here in the morning for something
Till when?
till 10 o'clock. We have a very
We'll have to
special.
figure that out.
I
We
can
have a-
always go up early and grab Cheryl.
And then come back.
No.
We have a very special thing happening here. It might not happen. So
Okay.
Okay.
if it happens, it happens. But it might not happen. But are you guys familiar with? I don't want to give away too much, but I'll tell you off
Cryptic.
the air.
Okay.
Okay.
There's some music legends that might be in the studio from the
Well,
from the 1950s.
If you're telling me that I should be here for that, then maybe I'll stick around.
I don't think you need to be here for that.
Oh well, then fine. I'll just
I don't-
drive up to Mount Washington.
I don't
Screw
think
you
that
all.
you.
Unless it's the Who, the Eagles, or
I said the 50s, John. It's a little older than that.
oh, okay then.
The-
Then I probably won't know.
There's a legendary doo-wop group that will maybe be here in the studio. So
I don't know.
Nope.
I'll tell you about it out
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
What'd you say, Matt?
Tavares?
No, not Tavares.
I was gonna say if that's what you're
I
talking
said-
about, I'm all set.
I said the
I got
50s,
excited.
not that's the 70s.
Oh, sorry.
All right, we'll get into all that. And also, you have another event coming up as well, like not that long after that.
A week after, St. Augustine, Florida, at the St. Augustine White House.
So it's like, okay, you can go be up in the mountains of New Hampshire in early April, which is still, pretty raw.
You never
up that
know
way.
what it's gonna be like.
Yes.
And then the next week you can be out in the sunshine.
Well, that's what I planned
Right.
it that way. So that way, all the guests that are going to be up there, that are going down to St. Augustine, can actually warm up after their freezing event.
and
Like
Possibly.
me.
come down with a cold from
Yes.
No.
the sudden change in
Probably.
temperature. So again, if people want to get tickets for these events,
They're all at brightstarpromotions.eventbrite.com. You can go there. There's multiple events on there. You can pick through. You can also, if you want a reading from Stephanie at any of the locations, there's readings available there too, and you can get those.
Who's that?
and we've kind of mentioned a few times as we were talking about different haunted hotels. It's come up a couple of times, but the Stanley Hotel is another one where that's when you say haunted hotel, that's
Right.
something that people gravitate to automatically. That, of course, being the inspiration for Stephen King's The Shining, but that's like kind of the same idea of the Mount Washington. It's one of those mountain resort hotels where you're kind of out there and
Right.
you're kind of in the middle of nowhere. So if this was January, February, you might be snowed in
Right.
and you might be stuck. And thankfully it's in April and you still might be snowed in and might be stuck. But
I would gladly be stuck in the Mount Washington.
That happened to one of the events that I did go to up there. We were investigating, no problem. 2 hours later, I go out to have a cigarette, and there's literally like 8 inches of snow, and you could not see in front of you. It was coming down like blizzard conditions.
The last time I went up to Mount Washington, we had every bit of weather possible, including a rainbow. And when we were going to drive home, there was just snowballs falling from the sky. It wasn't even snowflakes.
Once you get past the notch, the weather changes.
Yep, it's crazy.
Yep.
which
So-
is again why I'm having John drive me, because
Well,
I don't have a great vehicle. In the
It's going to
snow
be
anymore.
it's going to be an interesting ride up there. Say, me, you, Stephanie, Porter, and Mama Cheryl.
I think that
I was told you didn't have enough seats in your truck.
No, we talked about this, and I said
No.
that that's not happening
Nope,
anymore.
you didn't tell me that.
we have the tonneau cover, so you can always lay me down in the back if you have to.
Sweet.
Perfect. More room for me to stretch out.
I'll just
Princess over here needs to spread
Well, it
out.
depends on how early we're driving. Like,
You talk to Mama Cheryl.
all right.
we'll figure it all out.
Yeah.
But this, talking about some of these other haunted hotels, if you have any experiences out there and in the listening audience, having stayed in a hotel and something weird happened, you can give us a call, 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. And there are some people in the chat room that are going back and forth with some places, so hopefully they will feel free to call in and share as well.
You know a good one that's right in Boston that I've always wanted to get into, but I don't know if they would frown upon it, but I don't think that they would shut it down and let people investigate, but the Liberty Hotel.
a lot of those, I've tried to get into some of those Boston hotels for different things, and they, because it's Boston and they're open year round, they just don't shut down.
But
And-
you know the history of the Liberty.
No,
that it used to be a prison.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, that was the original Boston prison. And then this hotel company, Starwood Hotels bought it and turned it into the Liberty Hotel. And what they actually did was every 3 cells, the doors would get removed. You can actually walk down the walkways, and it's like walking the actual walkway from where the prisoners would walk. They never made the thing that much bigger, the hallways per se. And then, but every 3 doors, 2 of them would get boarded up. 1 would become the real door to the hotel room. So they'd take 3 cells or 4 cells, and that's what the actual room is 3 or 4 of the old prisoner cells.
So there's a billionaire that I'm kind of friendly with. We'll leave it at that. But
Really?
one time texted me and said, "Hey, what about investigating the Omni Hotel?" And I said, "Oh, that sounds like a great idea, but they don't really let people investigate there, and it would be hard to really investigate because other people are staying there." He says, "Well, what if we rented out the hotel?" It's like, what do you mean? The
Why
the
not?
entire hotel,
Yeah.
every room? Yeah, we could probably investigate then, but we never followed up on it.
How
But
come he's never come to one of your investigations?
doesn't want to do the public events.
But he would do it privately.
He's asked a few times about something. I think he's kind of waned off it a little bit. He's one of those guys where the interests just grab him in a certain direction, and then they hold his attention for a while. So he might have kind of gotten over this, but we definitely had some conversations about different possibilities. And
See, like Mount Washington would be perfect for him.
well,
Why don't you text him later?
it's
very intimate, so it
It
would work.
is.
but he just doesn't want to be around other. I know there's a lot of celebrities, like local celebrities around here, that want to get out and do stuff. And the minute I tell them, "Oh, we're going to be doing something on this day," and they're like, "Yeah, but is there going to be other people there?" It's because they just don't want to.
Yeah, they can be in their own group.
They want to do it, kind of on their
Yeah.
own, which I can kind of understand. To
Which
some
hotel
degree,
did he
too.
want? Did he want to rent out?
The Omni
The Omni.
in Boston,
Oh.
the Omni Parker, which
I'm gonna say
would not have been cheap
No.
to rent out for
Like-
the night.
my mom's gonna have to correct me, but I think my great grandmother was part owner in that at one point.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The Omni Parker house.
We had Tom Hamilton show up to one of my events that I was at
Yeah.
from Aerosmith, the bass player. It was his daughter's 18th birthday, and she wanted to meet Grant Wilson. And we were doing an event
That's funny.
It was me and Grant doing the event up at his old hotel, the Spalding Inn. So sure enough, they bought tickets. So and Aiden Sinclair was there doing
Yeah.
his magic show. So we picked.
He's awesome.
He is. He ended up picking Tom's whole family to sit down at the main table to help in part of the event, and they loved it. They had a blast. They couldn't. They walked out of there with smiles on their face. It was so awesome to see them up there.
Didn't something similar like that happen at the cruise, Tim?
Where there was a celebrity that
Yeah.
wanted to meet. Yeah, it was one of the members of Little Anthony and the Imperials was on the boat, and it just so happened that the night we're leaving New Orleans and we're sailing down the Mississippi River, I want to get out there. I've never seen the Mississippi, so I'm standing out. Everybody else is like, "Oh, we're going in here and we're partying, we're drinking." I'm like, "I'm going to stand outside and watch."
Yeah.
Like, this is pretty fascinating to like go down this river, because to me a river is, I live in Massachusetts, so the Taunton River is the biggest river I've ever seen, and so
It's hot in a river.
I'm like, I'm in the middle of the Mississippi right now, but it looks like I'm in the ocean. I can't
Yep.
see the other side. And so as we're going down, I'm just fascinated by everything about it. And I hear this guy talking, and I just hear this voice, and I'm like, whoa, this guy's got quite a voice. Very deep, rich voice. And he's telling stories about, traveling around. He's talking to these other folks that are with our paranormal group. And he's telling them stories about traveling around the country and performing in different historic theaters and staying in different hotels and all kinds of stuff. And he mentions, being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'm like, wow, who is this guy? And so finally I just have to interrupt him. I'm like, "Sir, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be eavesdropping, but I got to ask you, what group are you in? That you're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?" And he says to me, he's like, you've never heard of us. And I was like, "Well, just try me. I listen to a lot of music." He's like, "I'm in a doo-wop group called Little Anthony and the Imperials." And start singing Tears on My Pillow. I'm like, "I know Little Anthony and the Imperials." And he's like, "You do?" And we start talking, and he's like, "Man, so what brings you on the boat?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm actually here with a group of ghost hunters. Ghost hunters? You mean like Grant Wilson and Amy Bruni and Adam Berry? I'm like, actually, funny you should mention that. They're all here. No way. And so he got really excited. And I went to Amy and I said, listen, I know tomorrow we're getting together for the lectures. There's a celebrity on the boat. And I think, you know, he wants to come and meet you guys. And is it okay if I invite him into the lectures? Sure, absolutely. So he comes in and he's real nervous about it at first. And he's like, I'll just sit in the back and I won't say anything. Thank you for just letting me come in here and just take part in this one thing. And he was there with his wife. And so we're asking him, doing a Q&A during Amy and Adam and Grant, you know, doing a Q&A. And I'm running around with the microphone. And he just grabs me and goes, do you think it'd be all right if I asked a question? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I hand him the microphone and he gets up and so they's like, okay, all right, next question. And he's just like, yeah. And as soon as he started talking, the whole room just turns around and looks at him because of the voice.
Yep.
And so when he asked this question, I had to be like, guys, this is who this is. So after the Q&A session was over and everybody's leaving the ballroom, he wants to come over and meet Amy and Adam and Grant and everybody. But then all the people that are on the cruise are wanting to go up and meet him.
Yeah.
And so like he's signing autographs for some of the women and it was really fun. Then it was just weird that, it was that one conversation that kind of led to that. But you never know who was into this stuff. Also on that cruise was Ron Popeil, but he wasn't having any of the paranormal
He didn't
stuff.
like ghosts.
Who's that?
Set It and Forget It. The guy that sells like the Showtime rotisserie grill on the infomercials.
Pocket fisherman.
okay.
All those things. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no doubt he was the richest person on that boat. Like I don't care who else was on that boat. You're not beating Ron Popeil money.
Okay.
Did I ask you if he had the pocket fisherman and fishing?
You did
on
not
the side?
ask me. I didn't get to see him myself.
That would be funny if he was carrying it around though while he was on the boat.
Stop it.
Imagine if he just like went out to the stern,
the balcony,
the stern, the bow, the stern. Imagine if he went to the back of the boat and just like took out the pocket fisherman and threw it out there. And I'm already getting the terminology wrong because I keep saying boat when it's a ship. But if he threw the pocket fisherman out and was like trying to fish off the back deck of the boat, and then they're like, "Sir, you can't fish off this boat." And he's like, "I'm Ron effing Popeil," and they're like, "Okay."
What planet do you come from?
It depends on the day.
Okay, cool.
Whatever one is in retrograde, I'm sure.
Stop it.
So
Jupiter or Mercury, take your pick.
So there's also, I can't think of the name of it now. I'm trying to look it up here online. But when we talked about, when we had Dan Gordon and Mickey Bradley in to talk about, on the show to talk about haunted baseball years and years ago, they wrote about, there's a hotel in Florida where all the baseball teams stay when they go down there to play Tampa Bay. And that hotel is severely haunted. There's like at least one person from every team in Major League Baseball brought up that hotel to them when they were traveling around the country and interviewing baseball players for that book. So when you're dealing with people that are staying in hotels for a living, you know, they're used to some pretty weird It's got to be something really outstanding for it to stand out in their minds. But there's enough stories out there that they're able to remember these things and to share these things.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean,
hotels are just creepy.
I'm pretty lucky in the sense that nothing has really bothered me yet in a hotel that I couldn't sleep. Well, except for the time that I stayed in a motel with Moniz.
Oh God.
That was paranormal unto itself.
I'm trying to think over the past year and all the hotels I've stayed in. I want to say the one that we stayed at for ScareCon was haunted.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. Like I opened my eyes and I looked up and there was something like peeking around the corner and staring at me and I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to sleep.
Very interesting.
Oh, and the Gunter Hotel.
Yes, the
in
Gunter
San Antonio. That was super
stayed.
haunted.
Yes.
That was super haunted.
Yep.
So I would like it was so haunted that the ghost tours, the public ghost tours that they sold
stopped
tickets to, they
right
started
out in
it.
front of it, yeah.
They started their tour right outside the doors of the hotel. That was super haunted, but cool. I loved that hotel. It was actually really neat. I'm trying to think of where else we stayed that was haunted.
Well, the big one in New York is the Chelsea Hotel. You know, that's where like anybody that wants to investigate haunted hotels, that's like on their radar. And I did try and get into that for, I think it was Ghost Stalkers.
Yep.
And what was funny about that is I actually happened to call them right when they were shut down
Mm-hmm.
for renovations. So it would have been the perfect time for them
Yeah.
to get in. And I thought it was in the bag because they seemed really interested at first. And it's just the more I kept getting referred to other people,
Yeah.
like the more and more I could feel the chances dwindling. And then
So-
it got to the point where we just got shut down.
So the hotel that you were talking about in Tampa is called the Vinoy Hotel.
Yes, that's it. Yep.
Yep, the Vinoy Hotel.
That's where all the baseball players that have gone through there have
Wow.
come out of there with stories. And I think one of the other biggest haunted hotels, if you ask people, name a haunted hotel, they'll mention, the Queen Mary,
Yeah.
because that's really just a hotel now. And
Right.
and they'll mention, of course, as we mentioned before, the Stanley Hotel. Some of those places will be mentioned. Myrtle's Plantation is a
Yep.
hotel, so people will say that about that place as well. But the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel has some great stories to it. And this is, I want to say, I think it's Montgomery Clift, who's one of the people that said to haunt there. But they have a mirror that if you go there and you stare in this mirror, you'll see the ghost of Marilyn Monroe appear behind you.
Well, that's
Really?
creepy.
So that's I'm just reading through some of the stuff here on it really fast. Yeah, Montgomery Clift. Yeah, he stayed there while he was filming From Here to Eternity, and it said that he haunts there now. But everybody has been through there over the years, all the celebrities, and so they're saying some of the celebrities who have stayed there and are said to possibly haunt there is Errol Flynn, Marilyn Monroe, Montgomery Clift, and there's also a little girl spirit there that they report seeing in a blue dress named Caroline. So that's a place, because I was talking to somebody this week who lives out in California, in LA, and said, what are some of the places if you came out here that you'd want to definitely investigate? And first place I mentioned was the Roosevelt Hotel, because I like old Hollywood stories, and even if nothing happened, like just to have that be the focus of my investigation would be fascinating. Like to just be trying to talk to Marilyn Monroe.
Right.
Just to be able to try to talk to Montgomery Clift or any of these people who have been through there over the. It doesn't mean that they've necessarily stayed there to haunt it, but just if there's a chance to have that remote connection.
Isn't,
yeah.
Isn't that the hotel that some of the serial killers stayed at? Like
What?
Richard Ramirez stayed there, and
I'm not sure.
I'm almost positive that that's the one.
I know that if I tried to, I probably couldn't afford to stay there. But that's why I just would crash with friends somewhere else and just go there
Right.
to investigate. But that's those are the type of places that when you're going into a hotel, a lot of the times, and Stephanie, you know this because you connect with the spirits, but you're going there and trying to communicate with one spirit that you've heard the story about,
Right.
and there's just a lot of other transient energies that are coming
Oh
in
my God,
there.
yeah.
And so it can kind of make it hard to pinpoint. But at least something like the Roosevelt, where people have had repeated experiences with these same recognizable spirits, at least then it kind of gives you an edge up. But
The place that I investigated this past weekend down in Mineral, Virginia is called the Dunlora Inn. And the amazing, amazing owners, Sheena and Tony Wong and their daughter Lacey, have been renovating it to be an inn all over again. But it used to be a boarding house for years and years. And perfect example of, you think that the energies that are there, but a boarding house has tons of transient energies. And Porter and I decided for our second night of investigation, let's dig a little deeper, because we didn't feel like it was people that had stayed at the house or owned the house or anything like that. And we decided to use some different techniques to try to bring out spirits of the land. And we actually had two really crazy experiences. We actually caught a musket shot EVP, which was awesome, after playing some Civil War music. And we decided to play some powwow music from different tribes. And we had a very strong, powerful Native American spirit come walking right up the stairs. Everybody on one side of the house saw him, and then he walked into the wall, and everybody could see him walk into the wall, and everybody on the other side of the house on the other staircase didn't know that it was happening, and they all screamed when he showed up. So it was actually really awesome. So it does go to prove that you don't know what's there. You know, always be open to seeing what could possibly be there, because the in and out of, you know, especially a place like a hotel, you don't know where the energy's coming from, you know, where it originated, or is it from the actual land?
I mean, it would be fascinating to reach the point of paranormal investigation where we could kind of do what you do with your abilities, where when we're getting inundated with different energies, we could say, no, not you right now. We're not looking to talk to you. We're looking to talk to you. If we could start doing that in investigation, that would be pretty special to reach that point. But we're not. You know, we're at the point where we kind of take anything that we can get. And so with that in mind, we're just trying to talk to whoever is willing to come forward and talk to us. So it could be, you know, you could be going to a historic hotel, like what the Mount Washington was, 1902? I think I saw, like it was, you know, early 1900s.
It was early 1900s.
So you're going there and trying to communicate with the princess or some of these older spirits, and it might be somebody that, you know, passed away recently but loved to stay there every season and has just decided to go back there and stay there. You know, somebody who might have died 6 months ago and just decided, like, this is where I want to be for the rest of eternity. And we can't really pick and choose who it is that we're talking to. So I think with a place like a hotel, you're getting a high level of traffic that it comes with the territory. It's not like when you go to somebody's house or when you go to, you know, like the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast where you're trying to communicate with the board. Like, you're going to have to kind of just take what you can get.
Yep.
That being said, that makes it even more profound when the princess does come through when you're investigating, you know, because it's like, wow, of all the people that could come through, you know, we're able to make this connection.
Yep.
So hopefully people get out and take advantage of that. Again, you said $225 special deal right now for the tickets. $220.
Yep, and that's thanks to our great friends Lopaka and his wife.
Yes.
At Hawaii Paragon.
Yes.
So if you're going up there for the weekend, what can people expect? You know, there's a restaurant on site, I would assume.
There's a couple restaurants on site. Yep.
But do they have quesadillas? Is Stephanie going to be all right?
I believe I ate cheeseburgers. So.
Yes. I don't think they have quesadillas. I was trying to hope. I was hoping that across the street, the actual ski resort, that's Mount Washington Ski Resort, they have a restaurant at the top of the mountain, and you actually have to take the actual ski ride up the rides there.
Yeah,
the lift.
no thanks for that.
The restaurant is awesome. The view is awesome, and all it is finger food stuff: chicken fingers, burgers, quesadillas, stuff like that. They actually are closing on the 7th for the year.
Oh, so
you were gonna make me go up the ski?
I was gonna take everybody out to eat there.
Stephanie was gonna have the decision. Do I ride?
Right?
Do I ride a floating chair to get a quesadilla?
That would have been like the ultimate question of my life.
Yep.
Like,
as I'm turning 30, I have to make that decision.
Do I sit? They have what, like a bar that they put across those, or do they not even have a bar?
There's a bar.
I've been on some that didn't have the bar.
Yes, I've been on some that didn't either.
So basically, you know, she has to say, do I want to sit on this floating chair and risk my life?
Right. For
and I know that nobody ever falls out of those things, but
it's in the news at least once a year.
I would be the first one.
I did.
Of course you did.
Right, but nobody dies.
No, I was only like 7 or 8, and my father was taking me skiing for the first time. Got to the top of the hill. He's like, you got to jump. And I said, okay. Well, I jumped a little early, and my skis, you know how there's that little lip right there?
No, I've never been skiing. I don't know.
No. Well, there's a little lip, and my skis, because I jumped early, got caught on that lip, and I landed face first in the snow.
Of course you did. That's what happened to you. Explains so much.
Yes. I am terrified of heights. There's
really?
no way I'm going on a ski lift for anything.
Not even quesadillas?
Screw that. I will literally, I will bring some tortillas in a bag, you know, those like nice flour tortillas.
You know how to cook, so you can make me a quesadilla.
I will bring some of those and like some Kraft singles.
Actually, you both do.
Yes, exactly.
And some Kraft singles, and we'll make quesadillas.
Kraft singles.
We'll make microwave
we talk
quesadillas.
About this. No, we're not making microwave quesadillas. You can make.
Before I'll get on a ski lift, we will.
Oh my goodness.
What if we just?
I'm broke.
You know,
I'm going the John Tenney route. Peanut butter sandwiches in my room.
Oh my god.
But I've been on I won't even go on the sky ride at like an amusement park.
Really?
No, screw that.
Wow.
When I was a kid, one time I think I went on one of those things, and it was to ride the Alpine slide, and that might entice me to make that trip if I have to.
So you don't do roller coasters?
I love roller coasters. Roller coasters I don't have a problem with.
Wow.
I freak out a little bit during the
Yep.
part going at the beginning, but I still go on every roller coaster. But skiing, that's nope. If I could drive to the top of the mountain and then ski down, maybe I would, but not having to ride up in those stupid chairs. And did you see the new thing now that they put in at Foxwoods?
Oh yes, I heard about it. The
Yeah.
Skyline.
No
Zip line.
thanks.
I would try it.
You can zip line off the off the top of the hotel?
Yes, it goes right off the very top of the Fox Towers, I believe it is.
No thanks.
Yep.
How high is that?
I don't know. I forgot what they said.
Pretty high, though.
Yes, it is. It's over 200 foot.
Yeah, no thanks. So I'll watch somebody do it, but I'm not gonna do it myself. I put it this way, Water Whiz.
Mm-hmm.
I won't even go on the tall slides at Water Whiz.
Really?
No, too high for me. Forget that.
Wow.
Too steep
I
going
wouldn't have
down.
guessed.
And what
No.
are you saying no about roller coasters over there?
Me?
Yeah.
I hate roller coasters.
So what's going to happen when we go to Universal while we're in Florida?
I will not step
and
foot
meet
on a
you
roller
in-
coaster.
No, roller coasters are awesome. You have to
Yeah.
go.
Wait,
roller
wait.
coasters.
Who's talking about Universal right now? Do not tease me with Hogwarts.
Well, if I have to go through Hogwarts, you have to go on the rock and roll
Hell
roller
no.
coaster with us,
Nope.
with me and Porter.
Nope. Rock and roller coasters at MGM.
No, they have one there too.
Okay, cool. I'm not going on that.
It's actually really cool. They got a headset behind you. It plays
That's
rock and
terrifying.
roll music.
Roller
and-
coasters
Listen,
are awesome.
Hogwarts is amazing. Roller coasters
And
are terrifying.
A lot
There's
of newer
difference.
roller coasters, they have the pneumatic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like they just kind of shoot you to the
Yep.
top anyway. You don't have to do the.
Yep.
I need to.
The going down parts, it's fine. It's just the going up where I
No.
freak out.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
That and the Transformer ride we got to get you on.
No. Listen, just drop me off at Hogwarts for the day, and you won't see me till it's time to leave.
It's the good part is though, for those of you who are going up to the Mount Washington event, you don't have to go high if you don't want to.
No.
You can stay on the ground like I will.
Yep.
For the whole weekend.
Tim and I will be on the ground at all times.
I might change my mind. I might be like, because the Cog Railway is not that expensive, right?
No.
It does click the whole time.
It
That's
does.
okay,
Because
though.
that's one of the major points that you said I shouldn't.
Right.
This is why you shouldn't go.
But
on.
I think it's like what's it like $27
We don't
bucks or
have a
something.
lot of
I
for
don't
that?
time.
even think it's that. I think it's like 17 or 18.
So I might do it. Like when I get there, I might be like, all right, I guess I have to do it. But just because,
We gotta bring warm clothes.
like, when do you get to ride a Cog Railway? There's very few left in existence.
I don't know if
This is
that's what I
true.
want to do on my 30th birthday.
Of course it is.
I might change my mind. but
Among other things.
I also reserve the right to say no if anybody's
Like,
if anybody's
first of
listening.
all,
It's like you said
food.
you were gonna go.
Food and snacks are a must, and then no
Microwave
heights.
quesadillas.
No, we're not having microwave quesadillas.
Don't forget the
If
the
you
gummy
want,
bears.
we can make the quesadillas ahead of time
And then just warm them
and
in
then
the
just
microwave.
warm them in the
Yeah.
microwave.
That
when we
sounds
get
even
there.
worse.
No.
You gotta refrigerate that stuff.
Yeah,
Nah.
the rooms will have refrigerators. If not,
Mine didn't.
Well, your room will this time since
Will
you're
it?
getting the princess room.
I'm not sleeping in the princess room.
Nobody should sleep in that room.
Well,
Who wants who wants to sleep in a room where it's like, oh yeah, by the way, everybody that's in this event's going to be coming through your room tonight.
that's
Speaking
what
of
I
which,
said.
at the Lizzie Borden house, we have
Right?
That's exactly what happens.
Yep.
All right, so if you want to take part in this event again, John, give people the website where they can go to get tickets.
You can go to brightstarpromotions.eventbrite.com. It has a list of all the different events, what's going on, the things that you can purchase, whether it be Stephanie's gallery reading or just regular tickets to the events, whatever you'd like. Oh, and by the way, if you do purchase a ticket for the gallery for Stephanie, you have to purchase a ticket for the event also.
It's private readings, my friend.
Oh, that's right. It's a private reading, not a gallery. Thank you for being here because I would,
What would you do
totally
without
screw
me?
that up.
Yes, I'll be doing private readings like I do at most events, but you have to purchase an event ticket in order to
Right,
purchase
it's going
a
to be
reading.
really hard to get into the reading if you're already not allowed into the event. So,
You wouldn't be surprised, though.
oh no, I believe it, but just
It happens all the time.
There's a logical progression, so just
Yes.
make sure that you get your ticket to the event first.
Right.
And again, as I mentioned, we have a new event up at SpookySouthCoast.com. We've got a couple different things going on. We also have some other irons in the fire as well for some interesting things should they happen, but we'll see.
You got the Lizzie event coming up.
We
soon.
have Lizzie's next month. We have Wareham. We have the Smith Harris house. We have the Parson Barnard house. Basically, I was like, what can I do to make sure that we don't not have at least something fun to do? One, I've just been spending way too much time in this building, so
You need to just get out a little
yeah,
bit, my
we're
friend.
just gonna be going out and doing some events because I got to get out of here. So even being in here on a Saturday night, I'm like, I love doing the show, but I also want to get out and see people. But we will be back next Saturday night we will have another show for you. And until then, if you want to follow us online, SpookySouthCoast.com is the website. At SpookySC on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can email us, spookycrew@SpookySouthCoast.com. You can download the Spooky South Coast app. There's so many ways to get in touch with us. We want to hear from you all week long, but we will be back here next Saturday night with another edition of the show. And until then, for Matt, for Stephanie, for John, for Moniz, who's out there looking for Bigfoot, I'm Tim. We want you all to stay spooktacular.
Bedford's News Talk Station. New Bedford's News Talk Station. 1420 WBSM. New Bedford, streaming worldwide on the WBSM app and on WBSM.com.